I'm going to be talking about what exactly Zupass is, why we built it, some of the things you can do with it. The framing of this workshop is I'm not going to be walking through a lot of code. It's going to be a quick introduction, and then I'm going to potentially have time for questions, but probably not. So I'm actually just going to delete this. Okay, we're going to pretend that I'm onboarding you as a new member to the team. Okay, so Zupass. What is Zupass? Here are a couple of screenshots for those of you who haven't used Zupass. Basically, it's kind of like a cryptographic file system. You probably experienced it as a ticket delivery mechanism, but in reality, it's a cryptographic file system. So the objects that exist in Zupass are PCDs. So these frogs are PCDs, your tickets are PCDs. PCD is an acronym that stands for proof carrying data. I'll get into what exactly that means, but first I'm gonna kind of frame what is going on here with a couple of analogies. So I'm sure you guys have seen like Gmail or email clients. Gmail is an application, and what it lets you do is it lets you operate on these objects called emails. So you can send, receive, compose emails. Here's an example of an email. There are many different applications, and a lot of the applications that you interact with, they have like an affinity for a particular type of file. So like Microsoft Word lets you operate on Word documents. Anyway, you get what I'm talking about. So Gmail lets you send emails. Zupass lets you operate on PCDs. So in the same way that like Word lets you edit or create Word documents or receive Word documents from somebody else and edit them, Zupass does the same thing for PCDs. Okay, so what exactly is a PCD? A PCD, proof carrying data, at the most basic level, oh man, that is really terrible. Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, so this is a screenshot from our code base. We use TypeScript. A PCD is an interface, and at the most basic level, these are the only two fields that are really important. A PCD has a claim, something it's saying about the world, and it has a proof. The way that the two are related is that the proof is a proof that the claim is correct. So PCDs are intended to be like atomic pieces of data that are self-evidently correct. So a really basic example of a PCD is a prime factorization. So let's say that you have like a really big number, that would be your claim, I don't know, like 12, for example, and a proof that you know the prime factorization of this number would be the array 3, 4. And somebody can look at this thing and trivially verify it using some math or some algorithms. So the idea is there can be many different types of PCDs, and we've built like an SDK and a framework and an application that lets you operate on these things without really caring about what exactly it is they are. So you can have prime factorizations, or you can have frogs, or you can have tickets, or basically anything that you want, as long as it's of the form that is a claim and a proof. So this interface has a couple of other fields. ID, it uniquely identifies a particular PCD and a type. So there's many different types of PCDs. For example, in the prime factorization situation, the type would be the string, I don't know, prime factorization or something like that. Okay, so Zupass, it lets you hold a bunch of these PCDs, and the other thing it lets you do is it lets you do stuff with them. So what exactly can you do with a PCD? Well, obviously you can prove a PCD, i.e. like create a new instance of one. You can verify a PCD, i.e. like check if it's correct or not. Another thing that you can do, oh man. Another thing that you can do is you can make zero knowledge proofs about the PCDs that you have in your Zupass. Yeah, I know I described PCD in this like really abstract manner. They're like self-evident pieces of data that you can verify are correct based on the proof and claim. But what we're really trying to do is make it really simple and easy to build applications that let you make use of zero-knowledge cryptography as a developer without really having to understand the cryptography, because it's kind of a complicated thing. So I have Zupass open here. This is a local version. So it's like a cryptographic file system, so you can think of these as folders. So for example, in the DevConnect folder, I have several subfolders, and here I, for example, have ticket to the event called ETH Next. So this is a PCD. Under the hood, it's one of these guys, but it's rendered in this particular way. And then I have another folder here. It's called Frog Crypto. My local version doesn't have, unfortunately, like the actual images. I didn't set that up. But this is a picture of a cute frog, and this is another PCD. So what are these things actually? Well, these two different things I showed you, the ticket and the frog, they're instances of a type of PCD. So the ticket one is called an EDDSA ticket PCD, and the frog is called an EDDSA frog PCD. So EDDSA is a signature or like encryption algorithm, kind of like RSA, if you're familiar with that. EDDSA lets you sign stuff. So an EDDSA frog PCD is a JSON that has been signed with a particular EDDSA private key, and it's represented as a PCD, so it's got a claim and a proof. The claim is some representation of that JSON, so the frog has like different attributes, like the jump attribute, or the vibe attribute, or the speed, or intelligence, or beauty. So these are like fields in this JSON, and the PCD has all of these fields encoded in a particular way, and it also has a EDDSA signature, which would be also in the claim. No, it would be in the proof, and then you can take the EDDSA signature, which is in the proof, combine that with the public key, which is in the claim, combine that with the frog information, which is also in the claim, and you can trivially run an algorithm to verify that this is like indeed correct. So PCD is one abstraction that we have in the system. Another abstraction that we have is called a PCD package. A PCD package basically defines a new type of PCD. So the EDDSA PCD has a PCD package. The EDDSA frog PCD has a package. Maybe I will actually open some code so you guys can see. So EDDSA frog PCD, you can see that this is just like simple TypeScript, and I have this like frog data thing, name, description, image URL, and over here I have defined a type called EDDSA frog PCD claim, which is the frog data, and then I have an EDDSA frog PCD proof, and inside of it I have another PCD, funnily enough, it's frogs all the way down. So this thing actually has the thing I was talking about, public key, a message, and then a signature and the proof.
Is the user ID in the claim?
Is what in the claim?
A user ID, or how can I say that I own that frog, or are the frog the same?
Good question, yeah. So the thing that is in the EDDSA frog PCD, frog data, owner semaphore ID. So every Zupass user has a Zupass identity, which is in reality a semaphore identity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with semaphore. It's a protocol that lets you make group membership proofs. So you can like make statements on behalf of several identities, and then the zero knowledge proof basically proves that one of these people with these public keys said this thing. So yeah, the frogs are soul bound in a sense. Oh man, okay. Where was I? Okay, so we've got PCDs, we've got different types of PCDs. I talked about like frogs, I talked about tickets. I was just showing you the notion of a PCD package. So like, here is the PCD package. All of these different types of PCDs are NPM packages. You can install them. Yeah, so that's what's going on here. And Zupass is like a place to put all of those little instances of data that are structured in this particular way. And now I'm going to get into what exactly you can do with them, which is make zero knowledge proofs about them, or like that's one of the things you can do with them, I guess. So there's this website that we built in order to like test all of the stuff that we're doing locally. And I'm going to go to this page over here. So it's really ugly. It's not super interesting. But it does what it says it does, which is pretty cool. So I have this button. It says request Zupass event ticket proof. And when I click that button, a pop-up opens. And this pop-up is actually Zupass. So this pop-up is the same website as I have on this big site. And what's going on here is that this third-party website, which is, as you can see on a, I guess maybe you can't see, it's on a different port. This one's 3001. This one's 3000. Anyway, so what this pop-up is this link is a link to Zupass, and then after this hash, man, maybe I can open this in like text edit. So you've got this really big URL, right? And you can see it's got request equals. So there's an API that allows third parties to ask Zupass to do stuff. So this particular instance of an invocation of this API is asking Zupass to make a zero-knowledge proof about a ticket. So a ticket is an ETHGlobal ticket PCD, which is ETHGlobal signed data. And now, using this pop-up, I'm going to make a zero-knowledge proof that I have a ticket to a particular event ID and product ID without revealing any of the other fields of the ticket. So the ticket has a bunch of other fields, ETHGlobal ticket PCD. It's got an event name, ticket name, image URL, blah, blah, blah. And I guess, like, importantly, it has like an attendee name and attendee email, which are things that you may not want to share with a third party when you're proving that you have a ticket. So you could imagine somebody, like, for example, wants to build a website for all DevConnect attendees to be able to like log into and like have a forum to talk about stuff. One way you could implement that is you can make them give that website an instance of a ticket PCD, or if you're like more privacy conscious, you could ask them to make a zero-knowledge proof that they have a ticket that was signed by like a valid signer, and it was a ticket to this particular event. So that's like an example use case. So when I click this prove button, this pop-up is going to generate a Groth16 proof using Snark.js, and then it's going to send that back using a clever window.opener API to this third-party website. And when I scroll down, you can see that I got a Zupass ZK ETHGlobal event ticket proof from Zupass. When I expand, you can see it's just a piece of data. So it's got a claim, which includes a partial ticket, which is the event ID and the product ID. It's got some extra stuff that I'm not going to get into right now. And then it's got a proof, which is a Groth16 proof. And then this website actually imports that same PCD package, the ZK ETHGlobal ticket PCD package. It uses that verify function that's exported by that package on this literal JSON that I just showed you, and it says that the proof is valid. And you can see that the only things that were revealed were the event ID and the product ID, and all the other stuff was not revealed. Okay, so this API from third-party websites to Zupass, it lets you make requests to instantiate a new PCD, and that UI that you saw is kind of, it's like auto-generated from what the inputs are to that PCD. I don't know if I explained that in a way that made sense, but every single type of PCD as defined by a PCD package, in order to instantiate it, you have to give it some information. And so Zupass allows a user to input that information into that prove function using this UI, using like maybe some PCDs that the user has in their Zupass, and in some other cases they're able to like type stuff in. So in the like prime factorization example, one thing that you could do is you could like ask for a proof of a prime factorization of a prime number or a non-prime number PCD that they have in their Zupass, or they could type in like 5 and 5 and get 25, and that would generate a proof or whatever. Okay, where was I? So that's what a PCD is. That's what Zupass can let you do. There's an API. So like one thing that we built using this in practice that is like more interesting than the stuff that I showed you. The stuff I showed you is just like random developer examples. So something that exists live and in production now is we built this situation you see on screen where people can use their DevConnect tickets to make zero-knowledge proofs that they have a ticket and then give that to a web server that permissions them to access a Telegram hub, which is a collection of Telegram topics. It's kind of like a mini Discord. So people were able to, in their Telegram, talk to this bot called Zucat. They type /start, and then Zucat opens up a web view inside of itself that has Zupass in it. The user logs into that Zupass in that web view, and then they see that exact same screen that I was showing you in the pop-up. They click Prove, thinks for a little bit, calculates a bunch of numbers, gives it to our web server, which then lets that user into the Telegram hub. So that's like an example of something that was built in production. So that's like stuff that we built, stuff that exists now. I also wanted to like expand your mind a little bit and think about the possibilities about like what are the sorts of things PCDs can be. So far I've talked about EDDSA signatures of data and then interpretations of that data as represented by the ticket PCD and the frog PCD. We built those things in order to try to actually get users. That's not what we're really trying to do. Like, we're not really trying to make a really awesome ticketing experience. Like, you may have heard of like Unlock Protocol or something like that. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is bring this PCD vision to life, where you have a bunch of these like PCDs flying around and people, you know, make proofs about them and talk to each other using PCDs. Anyway, so here's like a cool example of a PCD one might have in the future. There's this project called ZK Email. ZK Email lets you make zero-knowledge proofs about emails that you received. Every single email anybody receives these days is signed by the mail server that is sending that email. So if you go to your Gmail and you click the 3 dots, you can download a raw version of your email, and that email will contain a signature, and that signature corresponds to the public key of a particular email server. And so this ZK email thing, it is a project that lets you take that email, the full one with the signature, put it into a zero-knowledge proof as an input, and then it's combined with another project that lets you make proofs about JSONs inside of a zero-knowledge circuit and regular expressions. So basically, you can make a zero-knowledge proof that you got like an email from Microsoft with a job offer with a particular salary. Or you can make a zero-knowledge proof that you got a password reset from Facebook for this particular account. Or you can make a zero-knowledge proof that you got, a venture capitalist sent you a term sheet, and that term sheet like had a particular valuation attached to it. So all sorts of crazy stuff you can do with ZK email. So imagine you put an email, that raw email that you have downloaded from Gmail, into your Zupass, and then you're able to use Zupass then to like make arbitrary statements about that email. So like a third-party website might be able to ask you, give me an email with like from this sender or from this set of senders that like says this particular thing. And then you click a button, the pop-up pops up, it, thinks for a little bit, you do the thing. So expanding even further, any signed data, you can make interesting statements about zero-knowledge proofs, preserve the integrity of information as it flows through like a DAG of these zero-knowledge proofs. Okay, so a couple examples that are relevant for you guys. ZooAuth, all of these links will be in a QR code. This is a starter repo that lets you use Zupass stuff to sign in. Don't take a picture yet. There will be a QR code with this link. So if you want to build with what we've got, use that for like a login type experience. And then if you want to give people PCDs, you can use this example issuer repo. And then Austin Griffith also has an example starter which integrates with the blockchain, so you can submit these zero-knowledge proofs to like Ethereum or something, and then somebody, I don't know if they use this, but maybe they use something else. Anyway, there's like a project that's live right now where you can use your DevConnect ticket to get testnet ETH somehow, somewhere. I haven't used it. Here's a QR code. Okay, that was my 20 minutes.